Have you ever had something wake you up in the middle of the night that was so profound you could not get back to sleep? My name is Cheryl Bassett, and I'm with Good and Crazy. It was 20 years ago, maybe even a little more, at 3 a.m., and I woke up and I could not get back to sleep. I kept having this idea run through my head. And so I knew immediately that I just needed to get up and start writing it down. And I'm going to read that to you in a couple minutes, but I want to give you a little context of how this has sort of played out over the last 20 years for me. So about 10 years after I wrote it, I was in a bedstand beside me, and I would look at it every once in a while and thought that was really cool. That moment that I had was really special in terms of how I felt so inspired to write this piece. But I had no idea what I was going to do with it. So about 10 years go by, and I'm sitting with a friend of mine named Amy and asking her how it is that she markets her business. And I remember her saying, I don't market at all. What I do is I show up every day, I go out in the world, and I try to offer a thought, an idea, a website, a book, a quote, something that inspires people to make a change, or at least allow them to have the next thought that leads to that change. And so I remember thinking, how cool was that? And then all of a sudden I went, oh my gosh, that reminds me of what it is I wrote that night 10 years earlier. And that day I thought, I'm going to just share it with my son and his roommate, who they're in their 20s. And I said, like I read it to them, and they go, oh my gosh, this is so cool. What are you going to do with it? And I said, I have absolutely no idea. So it went back in the drawer for about another 10 years. And when I was sitting in a meeting, someone said, we need something that could go viral, where people could just sort of like a pay it forward. What could we do that would really inspire people to show up in people's lives in a way that really was meaningful for others in terms of their journey? And so I thought, oh my gosh, I think I have something. So I go and I pull it out of my drawer again, and I read it to them, and they go, that is that's just really cool. Let's use it, right? So we kind of set it into motion. But at that time, the group didn't really stay formed, and so it didn't go anywhere. And so it went back in the drawer. And so here we are now, full circle, probably 20 plus years later, and we are launching officially the Drop of Thought. And it's really one of those things that it seems so simple, but it's so profound in terms of what it can do. And I remember even thinking, like, my husband's a chiropractor, and he would say, it's frustrating sometimes because I would share with my patients that they need to eat healthy or work out or, drink more water. We'll just drink water as an example. And he said, but they don't feel like they make the change. But here's the thing, is that some of them eventually do make that change. And somebody, one of his patients might have needed to hear it. Some of us need to hear sometimes things 20, 30, maybe 50 times before we actually make that change. And so if you need to hear 50 times that it's important to drink more water, every single time that somebody, whether it was, a person or something that appeared in your life, every single one of those was a dot on that journey. And once you connected all those dots to the moment where you go, wow, I'm going to make that change, that dot in that moment might have seemed like the defining dot, but the reality is all the dots were defining. You needed every single one of them to get you to that moment. So sometimes when you offer something into someone's life and you think, I don't think they heard me, they did. And you know what? They may not make the change that day, but maybe they only need 3 more dots from that moment until they do. And so that's what this is about. And I just want to share with you what I wrote that night and how it's kind of taken on this new life of its own. But here's what I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning and felt so inspired to write down. Why it's great to be a dot, which is a drop of thought. When you get up in the morning, you can dot yourself. Opportunities to offer dots are everywhere. Dots don't cost money to give, nor can you buy dots. So if you receive one, make sure you cherish it. There is an endless supply of dots you can give and receive. Give out as many dots as possible, because you cannot take them with you when you go. The dot you give could be a dot that creates that defining moment in someone else's life. If someone really likes your dot, they can share it with someone else. And even if someone doesn't like or understand the dot that you give right now, it still counts. If someone is down, you can dot them and then tell them to go dot themselves. The more dots in your life, the more rewarding it will be. And best of all, dots can help you connect your past while you seize your future. what I really want you to take away from this is that it doesn't cost anything to show up and just offer somebody a little bit of inspiration, a little bit of insight, really just love on them. And that is what this movement is about. What drop of thought do you have that you can go out and share with someone today? Because it's free, doesn't cost a dime, and yet the reward from it is amazing. My name is Cheryl, and this is my drop of thought.